Hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is, what is this, episode 2, or is this official episode 1, do you think?
I would call it episode 2, even though the last week we had the pilot episode. I'd call that episode 1, and this one episode 2.
Okay, so we're going to start here with episode 2 for the Plus One podcast. I am regular host Spencer. My plus one today, again, is Morgan, longtime
Hello.
D&D player. And we want to come back to talk some more, and I think our chosen topic today was characters.
Yes.
There's a whole lot of bunch of different things that we can do with characters, but we'll start by how do you start making a character? What makes a good character? Right? There's multiple different parts. There's the mechanics aspect, the class, the race, and then of course there's things like backstory, role play. How much do you just take from the book? How much can you make yourself?
Yeah.
So
There's a ton you can talk about.
what I guess I'll just start by asking you how do you usually start when making a character? Because I know you're like
Oh.
me and you make just a bunch of characters for games that you might potentially get to play.
Yeah. Honestly, I have many different ways about making characters. Some of them I'm just like, I want to play this class, and I'll build a character around it. Other times I go, okay, I have a specific character in mind, like how he acts, how he RPs. Now I'm going to build his race and class around that idea. But there's many different ways you can have an idea for building a character. You can be like, okay, I specifically um actually, why don't I give an example?
Okay.
One of our first campaign with our online group, after it was just Spencer, Jeff, and I, when we met Ryan and Brandon and our whole Discord server group, and we played in Ryan's online game. I had a character idea. I was like, I want to play a bard, and so how am I gonna build him? I was just thinking about it, and I was like, oh, I just want to make him like kind of like naturally gifted with magic, but like still like he's good with music and stuff like that. So I was just going about it, and I was like, oh, Morn came out of it, who's one of my favorite characters, by the way. Also ended up completely changing him farther down the line of the campaign because I actually didn't end up liking Bard,
Yes, I remember
but
that.
and I just kind of fucked with him too much with because I also he was a bard and then I multiclassed in a warlock and then I was just like, all right, I'm not having fun with this. I wish I had just stayed full bard and went uh, College of Valor instead of what I did, or I just ended up changing him to a different class later on because of events that happened in the campaign. But it was just a thing where I was like, oh, I wanted to play Bard, and then I was just like, oh, okay, I don't really like Bard that much. That's how I learned I'm not that big of a fan of Bard, but some Bard archetypes I would want to try out at some point, but maybe. But then I had a character idea. Oh yeah. Why don't I want to talk about June from Icewind Dale?
All right, our most recent.
Yep, and that's a current campaign we have going on. Spencer DMs it, and I have a character named June. He's completely blind. I was like, this would be fun to do. I was gonna make, and I want him to do like the blind samurai esque thing, and I was gonna make him a samurai fighter, and because I'd take the blind fighting style, which came out in Tasha's, which came out very recently, and I love that book, and I really like the idea of someone who's blind but could still see via blind fighting, and I that was a cool idea. So I was like, how am I going to do this? And I was like, oh yeah, I'll do samurai fighter because that makes the most sense to do my thing. But then I was reading other things and I went towards paladin because I've never really played paladin before because I did have a paladin in one other campaign, but he died within like 2 sessions.
Horrible, gruesome
Uh,
death. A story for a
oh,
later day.
that is a story. That is definitely a story. One of failure. But anywho, I was looking through Paladin was looking at some different archetypes just because. And then I saw the Watcher archetype and I was like, oh, this might fit his character very well with how I was imagining how he'd be more on the wise and charismatic side instead of like being more intelligent. And I was just like, yeah, this is something I could do. And I went more into it and I was like, yeah, yep, all right, I know I'm gonna do this character. And I had to take a feat to get the or yeah, I had to take a feat to get the fighting style. So I could, not so I could see because paladins don't get fighting styles at level 1. They get it at level 2. Then I also needed to take the alert feat, so I didn't just die by ranged attacks. That was a thing that would also happen. Which, by the way, we're doing a homebrew rule where we all get to start with a feat at the beginning.
Yes, I
So
like
that's
that
how I got that.
personally.
Mm.
That's a different, there's custom rules for building characters because we haven't even talked about like the different rule sets for building characters, whether you
Oh
roll
yeah.
dice or you use standard array or
Oh
whatever.
yeah.
But yeah, it sounds like your process is kind of
I
just
have a
going
few.
bit by bit,
Yeah,
right? You
that's how
start
I
off
do it.
with a single simple idea and then it just builds from there.
Whether that's
Which,
starting with a particular race class or just an idea for a character. Yeah, that's how I
yeah.
start.
I feel like with all the
And
options that have come out, a lot of times we start building a character by just saying, "Oh, here's a new class. Here's a new subclass. Here's a new class
yeah.
option. Here's a new race option or whatever." And we want to try that mechanically because I
Mhm.
feel like uh, we start more games than I feel like the average group. Like we have
Probably, yeah.
yeah, we have a lot of different games ongoing and also just we kind of tend to switch from one game to the next without necessarily finishing them, or usually we just like finish from a book and are able to start a new one relatively quickly.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of different, so we have a lot of different games, so we can make a lot of different characters. But there is, of course, more to it than just saying I want to play this class because he shoot the bow good. But
Yeah.
yes, I have a weird thing when I make characters.
And what's
And
that?
I definitely start with like a general idea. I know what kind of class I want to play. I usually have an idea of like kind of their role in the group, whether they're, supportive or like a combat role. Are they going to support? Are they going to tank? Are they going to do big damage? But also kind of like he's going to be the face of the party. He's going to talk a lot, or he's going to be the quiet one, or he's going to be the smart one, or whatever.
Mhm.
But a lot of times, I really don't have any idea what my character is going to be like, roleplay wise, until I'm at least like 1 or 2 sessions in.
Oh, no, I completely understand that. Like, I'll have an idea of what I want to do, but it's not like fully fleshed out until I start playing the character. It's the same thing with alignment. Is I have an idea where on the alignment chart I have my character be. Although, let's just say this right now, alignment does not matter at all.
It's,
But
yeah.
I still like to put his alignment because because there are specific things that can happen in certain campaigns where it's like, hey, this thing, uh, if you're good, it turns you evil, or if you're evil, it turns you good.
Oh, yeah.
There's things
There's
like that happen in D&D, so it's good to have an alignment.
not just mechanically, but you can just roleplay your character as changing throughout the story. That's like,
Yeah, that
this
too.
is a storytelling game. There's supposed to be some sort of, not all always, but some sort of character development usually. Your character goes
Hmm.
through some sort of change after a big event, and that's a really good, character moment. If you can roleplay that well, decide how they would change, um, whether they do like a Han Solo, well, I just fight for myself, but now I'm actually going to hang out with I'm going to fight for this big cause and I'm going to be a team player, or whether or not you undergo a horrible experience and the party almost dies and the rest of the party TPKs and you're the lone survivor, and then this person suddenly has a terrifying fear of getting caught and killed on the battlefield. A lot of that's a good way to always look out for. You don't always have to play the character the same way the entire campaign through. If there's an
Hmm.
important moment or you role play it correctly, then there can be a significant change. Um, which I do sometimes, but oftentimes I don't know what a character is going to be like because I'm looking for my moment. I'm looking for that specific. I don't know what it is, but I know it when I'll see it. There's some sort of opportunity for. Usually, it's my character to make some sort of ridiculous joke, but either be that funny guy, or there's a really risky thing, and I'll decide that my character is gonna go touch it. He's gonna go touch that big glowing gem because it just sounds like a really fun, interesting character thing to do. Even though metagaming, I know I'm probably going to explode or something. But stuff like that, I just like to go for it when I see it, and it's difficult. It's not always available, right? It's
Hmm.
never exactly what I think it's going to be, but usually I'm happy with the results. So, like the first session or two, I'm usually pretty kind of hesitant and I just kind of wait for that moment, but then as soon as I got it, I know what I'm going to be. Like our Pathfinder game, actually, once we got into this town, this is quite a few sessions in, but
Hmm.
I've had kind of, I guess, a character change because originally I had my character as they used to be a guard, right? That's their background. They used to work as a
Yep.
normal city guard, and then finally when we start interacting with real NPCs that are part of or the captain of the guard, then suddenly my character goes into this mode of, oh, old instincts are kicking in. I want to be a good guard. I'm trying to impress the commander, even though they're not doing that work anymore. They're doing adventuring and traveling with the circus and whatever. But I love opportunities like that. So, I mean, and there's the difference because a lot of people, and it's kind of become a joke at this point, like an inside joke, where some players will show up to the table session one and they have a gigantic stack of background, right? They have their entire backstory planned out,
Hmm.
which it can be good. It's always nice, especially if you have a DM that's trying to prepare for a very in-depth campaign, that they have that character backstory. But I definitely tend more towards the scale of improvising, and I have a basic idea, but I'll figure out when I see it. Especially for doing a homebrew, because then
Yeah.
like as soon as the DM introduces something, like here's this, town that I made, or here's this mechanic that I have unique to my world, and then I try to be like, okay, DM, I'm gonna bite your hook. I'm gonna try and make this a part of my character so that I can integrate better and so that you can show off your world more. I love doing that.
Hmm.
So that's a great way, and depending on how you want to build your character, you want to talk with your DM, either plan something out originally or try and work something in later into the story. Uh, I mean, yeah, we've played enough that we've done it a bunch of different ways, but I
Yep.
I'm definitely not that kind of guy to write a big giant backstory. It's just not me.
Yeah. Like we have Out of the Abyss right now, and you were in that game, but
Yeah, I
not
had
anymore
to
because
step
work.
out
But
because of time, but
anyways, Brandon is DMing that, and we're playing Out of the Abyss, and we're getting to the halfway point of the game where it makes it easy for people who want to switch out their characters and so on, because it's actually it makes sense how those characters get switched out and so on because of things that happen. But I'm still deciding if I want to switch out my character right now. But if I do, I have an interesting character planned for the switch out. Because I'm
what is your
currently playing a
character?
Hexblade Warlock Turtle named
Right.
Yogg. He has the nice, low, deep voice.
Hexblade is always
Yeah,
fun.
it is. And I do want to play it again at some point, but I'm just thinking, I'm like, I could play Hexblade Warlock to level 15 in this campaign, but based on his story, I feel like when he gets out, he's going to just be like, all right, I'm done. I got to the surface. That's it. I'm out of here. and then the new character comes in. But as part of the story of Out of the Abyss, we kind of left Gurkelstew to an adult red dragon who now owns it and kind of destroyed half of it,
Oh,
while we took a red dragon egg with us, which we still have. My plan is to make a Drake Warden ranger using the red dragon egg as his Drake companion.
oh, nice.
And I wanted to make him a kobold just because I thought that would be pretty funny. I don't know any other, like, anything else about him. I haven't decided where he's going to be in combat either, like if he's going to be strength-based ranger or a dex-based ranger, or if he's going to be melee or ranged. I haven't decided on that yet. But and I also haven't decided what his backstory is yet either. But I'll think of something fun. But I just think it would be pretty fun to play a kobold because I've never actually played a kobold before.
Yeah.
Might be a little overpowered, but we'll see.
We had one in Saltmarsh for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't they change the rules so that kobolds, like, races don't get minuses anymore?
They don't, but they still get pack tactics,
Yes.
which
Right.
is why I'm like it might be overpowered. We'll
Well,
find out.
yeah, we'll have to see. Didn't
Maybe I'll give
affect-
him a big ol' heavy weapon to counteract that.
It didn't affect Jeff too much. So,
True.
then again, he didn't play it for very much longer.
And also, I'm never ever going to be in sunlight ever for this character
Because it's Underdark.
because we're in the Underdark. I feel kind of bad.
Well, we'll see. You do have a tendency for characters
Shitty rolls.
that too, but you do have a tendency to make characters that lean on the stronger end of the scale. Not to point anything out.
Purely because I have shitty rolls.
I mean, that's what balances it out so well. You know how to very
True.
well build a character. And there's nothing wrong with building a strong character, right? You know, there's the complaint about, oh, min-maxing, whatever. It's all in the way that you play. You can have a very strong character that you built very well or had good rolls for stats or whatever. But, as long as you are cooperating within the bounds of the story, you're not making any other players feel less important or left out. You're not, using it to try and win D&D and always try and get the advantage, and you're upset when you don't get it. Right? It's not like that.
Yeah.
You can have a strong character as long as you play it well, it doesn't really matter. You can have a really crappy character. You can build it really unoptimized and you can
And
still have a
do
good
well
time
enough.
depending on the group and the DM and all that stuff. So I don't like to say one is better than the other. We definitely enjoy the crafting of strong characters. We would like to look at mechanics and try and make them work well. But it's not always, the priority.
And yeah, that is the thing. It may be kind of our priority sometimes, but don't let that be your priority. Let your priority be whatever it is you want. Also, we kind of stopped doing rolling dice
Oh yeah.
for ability scores.
Do we have that
Because
discussion?
yes,
Okay.
absolutely, we need that discussion. Because for a while we did roll for ability scores, but we ran into an issue with it. And the issue was some people just roll really well on their ability scores. Like, really well. One time, Spencer rolled a character that had pretty much just god stats. And he changed one of his stats to be like a 6 or something. He just because he rolled so well on all of his stats.
Yes, Jax.
Yeah,
He was
Jax,
fun.
the
But
cleric.
yeah, it so happened that I rolled extremely well and I had like no stat below a 14 or something. And so in fairness to the group, I dropped intelligence to a 6 just so that he would have an interesting character. And that became like the most interesting part about him really is that he was so dumb and he couldn't read.
Yeah, he just couldn't understand certain things.
And it was really fun to role play that. Um, but yeah, it was just a little bit too much disparity between individual players. You know, some getting really
Yeah,
high and some getting really low. Standard
and that's just
array
no fun.
is of course the standard, but we changed it because standard array starts you off a little too weak oftentimes
Hmm.
because it promotes the players simply choosing the ability score increase on every level to make sure their stats are, you know, on the upper end so that they have good spells and attacks and all that. But then
Or
that's not
social
as
skills or anything like that. Yeah, just
yes,
kind of.
skills. But feats are kind of left high and dry, and there's a lot of fun feats, and they added a bunch of feats in Xanathars and Tasha's, and so I thought we eventually came to the agreement that we use for most of our games now, which is use the standard array, start with a normal, you know, standard ability score points, or you can
Mm.
go standard point buy. It's essentially the same thing. Just at level 1, tack on a free feat on top of it. Because with that feat, the players who want optimized stats can pick one of the feats that give an ability score increase.
Hmm.
And oftentimes, you start with what, like the 15, you get a +2 from your race. That brings it
Yep.
up to 17. You're so close to that +4 at level 1. You can pick a feat that usually has a fun mechanic, but also
Mm.
bumps your score up just that little bit higher so that you can get that 18 or get that
Yep.
16 at level 1. And that kind of secures you because once you have one good stat or at least like two decent stats at level 1, you feel a little bit more secure. And so you can either go for that ability scoring priest to max that out, or you can actually use that to get more feats because you
Yeah.
don't feel obligated to get the ability score increase. So we've seen a lot of fun with those feats. You have to be careful because, you know, some of them are powerful and some of them will change your game somewhat. Observant, you can no longer surprise your players ever again. But
Yeah. That's the thing. Yep.
it, it's a lot more interesting, I think, because it offers a lot more varied. And I think that's better than just straight up giving higher stats.
Yes. Like, I'm gonna go ahead and talk about June again and his stats. So June was just a base variant human. So he started with a feat, and then he also started with the starting feat. So he started with two feats, which you're like, wait a minute, Morgan, what the fuck? He needed them to stay alive. It wasn't that he got anything overpowered or anything like that. He needed the fighting style feat to get blind fighting so he could see, and the alert feat so he could not die to ranged attacks. But anywho,
So yeah, the extra
his
feats offer that ability to make that very
yes,
specific blind
exactly,
build.
exactly. I was gonna give him the observant feat when he was gonna be the samurai fighter instead because level 1 fighters start with the fighting style. So I was gonna give him the observant feat instead, so he could be like, oh, he's got really good ears, so he can hear really well. But that just didn't end up happening, and I'm probably not gonna give him the observant feat. So,
Yeah, that's
anywho,
fair.
his starting stats, he started with 8 strength, 15 dex, 10 constitution. Yeah, paladin with 10 constitution, 10 intelligence, 13 wisdom, and 15 charisma. And then I put his two ability score improvements, one into wisdom and one into charisma. So he had 14 wisdom and 16 charisma. I wanted him to be wise and I wanted him to be charismatic, which is why he only had a +2 dex in the beginning.
Yeah, I mean
That's just
it's
how that went. But
it's interesting. And so yeah, that's I would argue that's one of your less optimized builds, but you can still
100%.
have a lot of fun with it because you have such a unique character flaw of he's actually blind and that changes a lot of the dynamic that we've had so far playing this game. Like you have to
Yes.
remember, oh right, the paladin can't see.
As long as you're 10 feet away from me, I can't see you. So, like, we have a character played by one of our players. She has a character that is a blade singer wizard, and she's a bit on the evil side. And by a bit, I mean she's straight up evil.
Well, the whole party
And
is that that's a story for another day, but
yeah,
yeah.
but anyways, she likes to stand outside my 10-foot reach or my 10-foot sight and just make funny faces and at me and shit like that. And
Yeah.
pretend like, hey, let's not tell him that the guy over there vanished as I'm walking towards the guy who just vanished and I have no idea.
Yeah, a lot
It does
of
lead to pretty funny moments, but
fun can happen, but then when the party walks in and there's a bunch of invisible Durgar around, and the only one who
blind
can see
fighting's
them,
awesome.
yes, suddenly you want the blind samurai on your side because he can just feel them out, Daredevil style.
Or see the ghost.
Or the ghost, yes. That's
Yeah.
come into handy multiple times already.
Which, by the way, did not build my character for those moments in my mind at all. I just wanted to play a blind character.
Yeah, you had no idea those were
So,
there. Fortunately, they were just already in the book, so that worked out well.
mhm.
But if you're a DM playing like running a homebrew, definitely look into trying to set up scenarios where certain players can, take advantage of their
Certain character
unoptimized or
traits.
interesting builds,
Hmm.
which I
100%.
definitely want to do an episode just on running games at some point because that's my
Yes,
favorite thing to do ever. But you are usually a player, so you have
I am.
a lot of experience on that. So figured characters
I mean,
first.
I will be DMing at some point, and I've DM'd a little bit in the past,
A
but
little bit. We'll get there.
I'll I will be DMing Waterdeep at some point.
Yeah, I
Dragon
look forward
Heist
to that.
and Dungeon of the Mad Mage. I don't know when that's gonna happen. Probably sometime later this year, but it depends on when Eberron ends.
Right. Well, uh, back to characters anyway. I think we covered the most of it, right? How we
Hmm.
approach building characters, optimize versus not. We do have a little bit of extra time, so I think we can just use this to kind of do what we did last time and just tell stories. So
Okay.
let me ask you your favorite character you ever played and why
Oh
you like them so
man,
much.
that's such a hard question, man.
I know that's why I wrote it down. Come on.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Do you have a character? Because I need to think on this. Do you have an
Okay.
answer for your own question?
I mean, you said Morn was one of your favorite characters.
He is, but I don't know if I. Oh no. Okay, I know my favorite character.
Oh, you do? You
Okay,
want to
well,
start?
okay. So I have different categories for different favorite characters. I have favorite roleplay character, probably favorite character in general, and then favorite character combat wise.
Okay.
So, which one of
I
those
think that's
three do you think
fair.
I should? Which one of those three do you think I should start with?
Um, you
I
said
literally just
combat.
made the list in my head right now.
You said combat role play and what else?
Just general,
And
in
just in
general.
general?
Hmm.
Why don't we go with in general? That seems like the best of both worlds.
You know what? I would probably say Morn at the end, not in the
Yeah.
beginning. At the end,
Once he became a sorcerer.
when he became a divine soul sorcerer, because he was just fun to play in combat, and he was fun to play in role play situations because he was a good neutral character. He was pretty young, and his whole thing was, I'm going to protect people no matter what, and I'm going to protect my group no matter what. And he was an Asimar, and he got the whole divine soul sorcerer thing going on. So I was blasting people with fire spells while also healing up my party. And one of my favorite things to do while in combat was twin cast a haste spell onto two of my melee allies who always had problems getting headfirst into combat because 30 feet movement speed. Not that fast when the enemies are all the way across the other side of the map. So getting them 60 feet movement speed was great, and then them getting 3 attacks then after was great. And they get +2 to their AC. They had advantage on dex saving throws. It was great. I loved that character, just playing him in general a lot. He was so much fun to play. I wish that campaign didn't end because I was having so much fun playing him, but it did. I might go back to playing a Divine Soul Sorcerer at some point just because I liked it so much. And I would say I probably like Wizards better than Sorcerers, but Sorcerer was still a lot of fun.
Right. And that was one of
Right.
our longer running ones. I mean,
Yes.
definitely at the time. So you had a lot of opportunity to kind of mold Morn over the
hmm
many different iterations that he had.
hmm
Um,
Definitely.
I do remember Morn, and I love that he kind of changed so drastically because at the time I didn't exactly know what you were planning to do. So in the story, when he was like abducted by angels and that whole thing occurred, so that was a very
because
interesting thing that I wasn't sure what was happening.
there was a moment where so Morn died 3 or 4 times during that campaign. But anywho, like on his second death, we didn't have any magic to bring him back. So your character, Brog, brought him back by asking your patron to do it. Or not your patron, your weapon. Because we had it was a special artifact weapon that you had that was holding an evil being with inside, and you're like, yeah, he's like, yeah, sure, I'll bring him back at a cost. And it was slowly corrupting more until he ended up turning evil and had an urge to kill people. Which at that time, he ended up killing somebody, and then Morn's mama, who was an angel of the heavens, came and went, nope, none of that, and stole him away, and then to be brought back later on to get rid of the
Yes,
corruption in him.
that that was a whole can of worms. I was tempted to say Brog myself because that was another.
Oh,
That
towards
was
one of your favorite characters?
yes.
Okay.
Did you want to talk about your others, or should I
Uh,
just?
you go.
Okay,
Actually, why don't we both do our those different
I think I
categories?
can do
So
that
what's
because I
your
think I've
favorite in
got.
general character?
I think I have my favorite general character, and
Okay.
it's funny because I wasn't technically a player.
Oh, I think I know who you're gonna say.
I think overall it's got to be Lugan.
Yes. I love Lugan so much.
Lugan was a very just Lugan was just a very fun-loving kind of like southern drawl um druid, elf druid who lived in the swamp and just hung out, chilled with the animals and was like, "Hey guys, I'm ready for an adventure." And
Yeah, he took he took
he
a
tagged
reference
along.
from the Last Airbender and the Swamp Benders.
Kind of, yeah, a little bit of that,
Yeah.
just kind of like a very rural swamp slash south kind of whatever you imagine that in a fantasy setting.
hmm
Very not properly learned, lived growing up in the wilds and just eventually learned how to talk to animals. Started casting some nature spells and tagged along with the group because the group was only 2 men strong at the time and they needed a healer.
That was definitely a thing.
So once more people tagged on, we had a full party, but Lugan stayed because you just can't go without Lugan, right? He's just a
He
fun
was great.
guy.
He was great. He was real great.
Summons the animals. The shepherd druid circle is very strong. We found out
And fun. Very fun.
you get to do a lot of stuff and you don't really feel bad for not doing stuff. Like you get the spirit as a bonus action. You have 3 different options. And then of
And they're
course,
all good.
yeah, they're all good in their own way, and then the main thing is summoning animals usually. And then on top of that, you can do whatever spells and attacks that you do once you have that set up. It's
Mhm.
very action friendly because the spirit is a bonus action. If it was a full action, that I feel like that class would suffer a lot more because you have to spend
Absolutely
a
would suffer.
turn to summon that, then you have to spend a turn to summon your animals. But no, you can do it all in the same, or you can summon the spirit and do an attack or spell or whatever.
Hmm.
But yeah, not really much
Absolutely.
change for Lugan over that whole course, but he was just a very enjoyable, fun-loving, nice guy. I like playing those. I'm very
Yeah,
avert
he
to
was.
evil characters.
I really liked Lugan. He was a lot of fun. He was pretty cool.
So should we do combat?
You decide.
Okay. Um, let's see, because I'm trying to finalize mine.
Okay.
Um,
Which one do you have first then? Combat or RP?
I think you would have to be combat,
Okay. Then we can start with combat.
and I think that one might be Brog. I can't think
Wow,
of
I'm
another.
surprised. Not
What
a
did you think?
paladin?
Well, I mean, I haven't really had a chance to play a paladin very much.
That's true.
I played a
You haven't.
paladin because I want to try the other classes, of course. Paladin is my favorite, but there hasn't been really a long-running, enjoyable campaign that I've played a paladin in for a while.
Yeah, because you were playing a paladin in Descent to Avernus until we all died. That was pretty early on in that campaign.
Oh yeah, I feel like if he survived, he would have been pretty up there
Evil.
because yeah, just a Oath of Conquest paladin with a magic sword already ready to go into
Mm.
hell, dragonborn, the whole 9 yards.
Oh, the Conquest is so cool.
Yeah, it was pretty strong. But I think
I'd like to
Brog,
play one.
it was during, it was a Hexblade Warlock, but that was during the UA before it was officially released in
Right.
Xanathars. But it was still relatively the same and still pretty powerful.
Yeah, the only difference was you didn't use charisma for your weapons.
Yeah, I actually built strength so that I could have a big old fancy sword. I ended
Mm.
up getting some magic weapons that changed that a little bit, but overall it worked.
Yeah.
I got some fun magic toys in that campaign that was totally
Yeah.
homebrew, so that helped. It wasn't just
Yeah.
the class. I got some fun stuff to go along with it, but Hexblades I feel are just very fun to run around and smash stuff with
They absolutely are so much fun to play.
because you
And
get
they
to.
got some new magic toys to play with
Oh
in
yeah,
Tasha's. I'm not talking about like just magic items. I'm talking about spells. Like Spirit Shroud and a Hexblade Warlock are like best friends.
yeah. I haven't even gotten a chance to try that yet, so
It's super good.
yeah, you've been doing that Hexblade. Speaking of, what would you pick for combat? You think?
Combat. Um, who do you think I would choose? I gotta ask. Who do you think it is I would choose for combat?
I feel like it's your Hexblade from Tomb of Annihilation.
Nope.
Really?
Although I
Ah,
really enjoyed him, but come on, there's a more obvious answer.
is it your Artificer?
No.
Really?
Actually, I liked playing him, but he was actually down. He was actually farther down on the scale of enjoyable in combat.
Yeah, I mean he was plenty strong.
All right,
I'm not
so
sure.
you're not guessing it. Theron,
Oh, of course.
my Blade Singer, with or not? Sorry, not Blade Singer. When I remake him, he's going to be a Blade Singer. He was a War Mage, War Magic wizard that I played in the Eberron campaign before he got disintegrated.
And he had to be
Um,
disintegrated because his AC was 30.
yeah, just for various things. But like, I just had so much fun playing that character, and it wasn't because I had AC. It was because I got to do the whole melee swinging my weapon around while I blast people with awesome big magic spells. I love playing uh, like war mages and stuff like that in different games. I love that. I love it so much. It's one of my favorite things mechanically in combat.
I think that's why we like Hexblade so much because it does that
Yeah,
well. But since we were getting into a high level campaign in Eberron, you were able to make that really strong with just the wizard.
yeah,
You
yeah,
were
and it
able to
was
build
just
that up.
it was so much fun to play, and
Because
I do really want to try Bladezinger at some point because I'm like, yes, this is it does pretty much the same thing and just stuff better in my opinion than War Mage does.
yeah, I'm
But
interested to see that because I feel like in the beginning the fighter mage was difficult to do.
it is very difficult to do within the first few levels because
The I mean, not only just in the first few levels, but also just the beginning of fifth edition, right? The
yeah, I would say I'd agree with that.
there was the Eldritch Knight fighter and not much else. You can multi-class and try and work something else out, but there wasn't really
Yeah,
any much
wizard, multiclass in the
made
fighter or
for it. But
something.
now
Hmm.
we've got War Wizard, we've got Hexblade, obviously, Blade Singer.
Blade Singer. Yeah, there's a lot of different ones you can choose from and do that sort of options with. And that's why Theron was definitely my favorite character to play in combat.
He was very
And of course,
strong.
having an AC of 30 and above was
Yeah,
also fun,
that
but
was the
it was just,
meme.
yeah, it was just, I very much enjoyed playing him in combat. He could honestly have had an AC of 15, and I still would have had so much fun playing him.
True. He just became a meme character for the rest of us, saying, "Oh, Theron's in. Does a 42 hit? No. All right, never mind."
Except it definitely would.
It was
And
the joke.
also that Brandon crit all the goddamn time and still does,
That
but
too.
that's another thing. He's a god when rolling natural 20s, by the way.
Oh yeah.
All right. Uh Roleplay character. Do you have yours?
Oh, I'm
Or should I go ahead and say mine first?
yeah, I'm kind of torn. Why don't you go ahead and
Okay.
start this one?
Okay. Um so for roleplay, Chiron, the Hexblade Warlock you mentioned earlier, is probably my favorite for roleplay.
Yeah, I
Which,
knew that you was one of your favorites. That's why I mentioned
mhm,
him. But really for role play.
yeah, for actually mainly one reason.
What was it?
We had a character disagreement between players in the Tomb of Annihilation when it came to the Yuan Ti boss. Do you remember that?
Right. Well, I mean, I remember that you just kind of tore through and you beat him pretty
Well,
easily.
remember that he came up, he showed up and he offered us a deal, and Chiron was immediately like, "No, I don't want to take that deal." And Jeff's character, I believe he was playing a Valor Bard,
Yeah, he was playing a
the
bard.
Drow Valor Bard, and he was like, "No, we got to take this deal." And Chiron just immediately, because of who he was as a character, was just like, "I'm not doing deals with these guys because he's probably going to turn around and do some evil shit as soon as we free him from the death curse." Because it was like he straight up told us, "Oh yeah, I'm weak right now. You guys could totally kill me." And we went, "Really?"
Yeah, because
And
you guys
I
beat the rest of it, and so he was kind of at your mercy. So you guys decided what to do with him, and yeah, Chiron won out, right? You killed
yeah,
him, took
I
his
just
sword.
I just straight up attacked him and he escaped, but Jeff's character got so mad at me at my character
Oh, that's
for
right.
doing that.
That's partially why he switched characters.
Yeah, because he left because he got his character got upset with mine and he went, "I'm not doing this. You put us in danger." Which, I mean, uh, that that easily could have been you did put us in danger thing. It didn't, but it easily could have been. And then there was also a thing with when we continued that campaign after Tomb of Annihilation and we were doing the orcs and dealing with them. I just really
Yes,
liked playing him as more of a face character, but not. He was a very gruff character, but he was also very charismatic.
you're
So he
right,
could
because it's
easily
Hexblade.
carry the conversation. but he was very gruff about it, and he was very straightforward. He wasn't going to tell you lies or anything like that. He was very honest and straightforward. But he could be deceptive when he needed to. But his deception wasn't just telling you straight out lies, it was kind of more bending the truth at times when needed. And I really liked role playing him as a character. It was just pretty fun. I've had a lot of other different characters that I enjoyed role playing a lot. Like currently, I really like role playing Yogg. He's also a lot of fun to role play, because he's just a turtle. He's got that low voice and he talks.
Like,
June is a lot of fun to role play. I like his voice and doing things with him. I really like
there's
role
more than
playing
you can
different
count. I
characters.
know.
Yeah, but I would say Chiron is probably my favorite with role play.
Pretty good. Uh,
Hmm.
so I think mine was a close tie between a couple options.
Okay.
You want to guess?
Um, let's see here. I'm honestly one of my guesses is for Billy.
Oh, yeah. I didn't really get a chance to play him though.
No,
I
it's
got like two
true, but
sessions in.
he was yeah, I can tell you enjoyed playing him like the way he was. Are we counting Pathfinder along with this, or just straight up D&D?
I would say Pathfinder counts. It's
I,
RPG.
I think like I could see you enjoying Sora. Is you like role playing as Sora?
I certainly have enjoyed a little bit more as of recently.
Hmm.
But I would say that I had a lot of fun role playing. Oh my
Oh,
gosh, this
Chad.
is embarrassing. I forgot my own character's name. Um,
Oh, I probably remember.
in Curse of Strahd.
Oh, oh crap! I forgot his name. But you're talking about the arcane archer fighter.
Yes, my arcane
Ah,
archer. It was
yeah.
it was I usually do something simple with
Crap! I
those.
forgot his name.
Yeah, me too. It's my own character. You'd think I'd understand. Let's see if
Hold
I can
on.
open up the game and find it. Yeah.
Yeah,
But basically, it was an arcane archer, and he started off pretty normal, but
yeah. I could see that. I absolutely know where you're going
oh,
with
I,
this.
I
Yeah.
just called him Finn. It was Findale,
Right.
but he was just Finn. When the event occurred, where
Hmm.
this is the same as your paladin character's death,
Yes.
and I don't
Which
want to
was
go into that
really
whole
on
story.
early.
We don't have time for that one right now,
No,
but
I do have to say that happened really early on in the campaign.
yes, and that
It was
transformed my
like within
character for
like
the better.
4 sessions. The first 4 sessions is when that occurred.
Because basically what happened is my character was inflicted with a form of long-term madness. And oh man, it is so much fun to roleplay one of those. If you get the right
Mhm.
one, I would say, like, honestly, just if you want a crazy idea for a character, go to that long-term madness table, pick one you like, and show your GM and say, hey, I'm doing this.
Yeah,
Because my character essentially became the Joker. He could not take anything
yeah,
seriously. His flaw was that the more serious a situation becomes, the funnier he finds it, and he can't help himself but laugh and treat it all as one big joke. Later on, he was
yeah.
cursed to have a permanent creepy smile, and so he
Which is
literally became the
hilarious.
Joker.
Except he wasn't evil. That
Except he
was the
wasn't
only
evil,
thing
no.
from keeping him from being the actual Joker.
On all outward appearances, he was an insane, joke-loving, crazy person, but he was not actually evil. That was the only thing that if he turned that, then 100%. But it was so much fun to play that. But I think that's my runner up because as fun as that was, it was short lived. And so I think with how long we've been running it and all the different opportunities I've gotten to play the character, I would have to say Chad from Eberron.
Yeah.
Chad is the surfer bro wizard that I invented. He flies around on a hovering surfboard.
It's just a reskinned flying broom.
And a combination of his position as ship captain, because he's the only one who can operate the ship due to his special dragon mark or whatever. So he's
Yep.
responsible for all the crew, and he has a tie to that. but he also has this laid back surfer bro personality that kind of conflicts with his other half, which is scholarly wizard. And
That's
on
pretty
top
funny.
of
Yeah.
that, just the intense hatred he seems to find for his own familiar as a running joke of how horribly can I kill my cat familiar today? Because they're limitless. You can just summon them again. But how far is he willing to go in these terrible things that he does with his cat familiar?
Yeah. It
So that's
it
the running joke, and on top of everything else that I've done with him, I think he's been pretty overall. There's been highs and lows, but I think on average, I've enjoyed him the most.
yeah. I honestly would have put Jasper as one of my favorite RP characters, but I only played him for not that long. Like I think it
Right.
was like 6 or 7 sessions until he died from a false Hydra. Got eaten. That was fun. But he went out in a blaze of glory because he killed it on his way down.
Yeah,
Because Fire Shield.
you've died twice in Eberron now.
Yep. I have I have made 3 characters for that campaign, and I've died twice.
So we'll see going forward, but
Yeah.
yeah, just a combination of all those different things, and of course we have so many different other characters that we love so much. I enjoyed Billy, obviously.
Mm.
There was my first 5th edition character, a sorcerer, wild magic sorcerer named Gage. Wild magic is always fun. Had some funny moments to it.
Yeah.
But I mean, we've already gone plenty over time. I think we've
Yeah.
gushed enough about ourselves. So overall,
Mm.
if you had one piece of advice before we sign off, what would you say to someone making a new character? What do you think is the most important thing to start off with?
Um, Build whatever you want. Just make something. Like I've said before, what keeps me coming back to this game and what I think people should, why they should be interested in this game is you can be whoever you want. Create somebody who either is just a personification of yourself in this type of world, so just put yourself into it, or make somebody that you've always wanted to be but can't be in real life, or something like that. It's literally just make an idea. Or if you're completely new to some of these sort of games and you just like, I just want to hit things really hard. Okay, that's fine too, man. You just make that character. You can you can easily just make a character like that, like a barbarian or a fighter. Just go into it and you make them be the most interesting character in the world because you can have some character traits that are, flaws, but you play into those flaws and it just makes them fun to play. Always play into your flaws. Always make characters that have some sort of flaw because nobody's perfect. Playing perfect characters is no fun. I can promise you that. I've played a perfect character before, and like he was a little fun, but like I actually, because he was so perfect with his stats, I went, okay, I'm giving him like a trait flaw because I it's too much.
Yeah,
It's fun to play into those flaws. So give him a flaw,
I've definitely had fun with
some
characters
sort
like
of
that,
flaw.
but overall, I think you hit the core of it, which is make whatever you want. Of
Hmm.
course, it is a game with other people, so make sure it fits with the DM and the other players. But so long as you fit somewhere within those lines that it makes for good play, you have complete, total freedom. Do whatever you want. It's such a great game.
It is,
So,
and
yeah, I guess that's covered everything, right?
yeah, I think we should sign off here.
All right, yeah, we've been going for almost an hour. Thank you for listening.
Wow.
If you happen to listen to this one again, we'll see. We're going to try and keep making these somewhat weekly, maybe once every 2 weeks, depending on scheduling. But I certainly look forward to the next episode. We'll see if I have a different plus one. Morgan comes by a lot, but I've had some other people offer, so we'll see who my plus one is next week. But for now, it's been me and Morgan, so thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Bye bye.